Okay. And first, I would just like to greet you, all of you again, to a new session of AI Challenge, this time AI Challenge and mental health. And before we go into discussion, which will be open to all the other guests and participants, but of course, very much fueled with our invited guests today, which I will introduce later on. First, I'd like to just walk you a little bit through what we've done so far, and that you could position yourself in the framework of the AI Challenged Year, because the AI as a concept, as a topic, as a technological advancements, as well as a social, serious social disruptor, deserves our attention. It's our responsibility to really tackle it. And let me just briefly walk you through who we are and what's going on and where are we heading with all this. So first of all, for those that are new, the eco-civilization is really a movement and represents a disruptive global cluster of people who care. The definition is really simple. We try to create safe space for engagements, collaboration, innovation, and emerging foundation for the future civilization. So the stress is on caring, and the stress is on willingness to join forces with other people, not always like-minded, but people who really are searching for a new way of living the future. One of our guests today defined eco-civilization in an interesting way, so I decided, Yanis, to quote you, because I just read your article in the Leadership Challenge book, which I'm now going through and carefully marking all the important thoughts of all the authors. And Yanis share the thought that for him, the eco-civilization projects, as he understands it, is a project of reconnection with the planet, with each other, with the deep structures that sustain life. And yes, indeed, we very much feel with that definition as well. Currently, we are still in 52 countries. We haven't been adding too many countries this year, but rather focusing more on content and the shared content and distribution of content, just to have a more solid grounds for future engagements. But I'm very happy and impressed with the way how people are picking up the concept, trying to understand it in their own way, because there is no universal definition. And we are learning how to really listen, how to pay attention what's emerging on a local level, and learn from each other. And out of those experiences and out of the global challenges that are around us, little by little, some theoretical framework is also emerging. So far, as part of the eco-civilization movement, we published 5 books. 4 of them are a consequence, or let's say a result, the next step after the focus yearly topic, like circular economy, water, mental health, and leadership challenged. And this year we are hosting 2 more topics. One is AI challenge, and the other one is the soul of the cities. And we are expecting, of course, next year all participants to contribute their articles to 2 new books, which hopefully you will co-create. And all this is available in electronic format without charge on our eco-civilization page in the library. So feel free to download them, feel free to distribute them, use them as a material at your lectures. Only thing we ask is that you reference the source. That's it. So what would be the message so far from eco-civilization, hosting already since February 5 of the sessions on AI Challenged? And one of the messages that resonates with me really well as a sort of a summary of the many important understandings is that AI for humanity could potentially be a partner in delivering life-affirming and Earth-centric ecosystems. However, it is just a technology. It's not good nor bad. But rather, I would see it as a mirror, as an amplifier, and a test of humanity's readiness to thrive, for thriving. It's just something in this conceptual technology that is really challenging humanity and its core behavior, and is somehow exposing all our weaknesses and strengths. So it's now up to us what we're going to do with it. As I mentioned already before, this is a next session in the series of sessions. We already covered AI and humanity, AI and culture, AI and geopolitics, AI and education, AI and regulation and governance. And today we are addressing AI and mental health. And there are many more coming until the end of the year. So I sincerely hope that you will be able to join us in other sessions as well and contribute with your own experiences and knowledge. Today's session we put together with my dear colleague, Dr. Rajni Vohra, who is today not only the support for coordination of this, but also a guest speaker, because she was very instrumental and one of the forces behind last year's mental health, the year of mental health, and the book that you saw previously that we published at the end of that year, actually this April. And her rich experiences with varieties of subjects related to mental health makes her a perfect co-speaker for today. But we have three very distinctive guests that we brought forward from a very different backgrounds. A dear colleague and friend, I can say by now, Yanis. We've met at the conference in Zagreb on sustainability and energy, green energy, and somehow we were surprised how calibrated our views and in that session were. So we stayed in touch and we continue to collaborate. So I'm very much expecting his view from a field, because his, as I will share a little bit later, all the CVs, is from direct engagements with corporations, and of course with a lot of emphasis also on philosophical part, the way how mental health and leadership are co-developing and influencing each other. Ekaterina, we also met at one of the Rajni sessions, and it was a very nice surprise to meet you and to listen to you in our discussions about the way how you position mental health and the way how you're experiencing in your own way in this very multicultural environments that you're part of. So I'm very much looking forward to your views in that respect. And Konstantina, as a representative of a younger minds, where again it's also she came forward in another project that I was part of, which was the for young women leaders European project. That's where we met for the first time, and it's great to stay in touch and see how you're evolving and addressing these organizations' psychology, especially in the relationship with sustainability. So not to read, of course, the whole CV, which it's not an intention, but I would just like to bring the attention to variety of experience our guests have and different types of trainings. So when we look at Yanis, he has all these typical, I would say, trainings that apply to somebody who is involved in psychology and especially in deep relationship with corporate environment. I'm I could see also in your work the way how you try to bring the historical perspectives and different cross-generational understandings of elements that importantly influence the society, and then also correlate them with either leadership or mental health. And I do hope that today with the AI will bring this triangle together, which is AI, mental health, and leadership challenges. So thank you again very much for being with us. Then I'd like to also say a few more words about Ekaterina. She's comes from an HR background as well, which is again a very valuable input, and psychotherapy. So this insight and this relationship with the emerging world that is offering so many global challenges that actually are well reflected on a personal level of every one of us. And now AI as one of big disruptors. It's again, Katarina, I would love to hear your perspective in that particular sense. And then hopefully your comments will bring on board our guests as well with participants with their own experiences that they have. Then Konstantina, as I said, she is native also Greece. Here, Yanis, we just happen to be that we have 2 Greek people in the session. This is unbelievable, but great to feel that strength of the Greek vibes, which just maybe it's a reminder that we do have to look in the history a bit more. And it's also a very proactive young person, young manager, as you see, as a founder of the Social Issue Club at the American College of Greece. She keeps organizing different events that put mental health at the core of the discussion. So we're very much looking forward to your fresh perspective. Maybe I should speak more about Rajni, but Rajni, it's so much already about you in all the books, so I hope people will just click and check you out. But entrepreneur, incredible collaborator, and a team worker with exceptional leadership capacities. So I'm very honored and grateful that we've been collaborating almost since the first day of the eco-civilization movement. So let's dive into this topic now. My first question to all of you as an opening question is AI our future or just a distraction? Are we focusing too much on AI? So what is your personal view and your personal experience and basically your opening statement into this session? And why don't we invite Rajni? Go ahead and open up the session.
Thank you so much, Violeta, for this opportunity. In fact, as so many conversations are happening around AI and its future and the prediction about how AI and the future, will turn out to be. So I believe most of these predictions are based on some probabilities, data patterns, assumptions, and kind of educated guesses. And in all honesty, I believe that at this moment, nobody on this earth has the perfect answer to all these questions, that how AI is going to shape our future, how things are going to turn out to be in a few years down the line. So all I can say that some experts believe, based on their experiences, that 90% of the people will become unemployed in the coming years, and there would be huge disruption, which we cannot deny, which we cannot turn a blind eye to, because this is something we have already been witnessing through layoffs in various global companies. So I would say that instead we cannot afford to have ostrich mentality that nothing would happen. No, things are happening in front of us. But all we need to do, we need to brace ourselves for the forthcoming challenges which are emerging through AI automation. So I see AI both as an opportunity as well as a challenge. Depends how we are going to invest into it and how we are going to use it. Because on one hand, Violeta, if you look at AI has improved our lives, in countless ways. Definitely, it can help us drafting emails, learning new skills, improving productivity. It's like magical, and even act as a personal assistant, personal coach for domains like health, education, and relationships. But here the concern is if we become so focused or so dependent on AI that we start neglecting all human skills and characteristics which are unique to humans only, like critical thinking, creativity, empathy, emotions, ethics, ability to form real connection with human to human. All these things, cause a concern in my head. I'll stop myself here. I'll take a pause and would give chance to my colleagues to speak.
Violeta, you're muted.
Thank you very much. So let me now pick it up and Yanis invite you to come on board and just follow up on what Rajni said. And I wonder, can you already say how much AI is basically impacting our inner world? Can you already notice that? Can you recognize something like that?
Yeah, thanks, Violeta. And it's a real pleasure to be on this panel today and talk about a really new topic. I mean, it's not a topic that we know much about yet. It's still early days. So it's in some ways a conversation to learn as much as speak about it. The question you started us off is whether it's a distraction or we keep talking too much about it. And I would say pretty certain that that's not the case. I mean, I think it's gonna radically change the way our experience of reality is mediated. That's actually the best term I can use. And it's gonna change a lot about our inner world, so our relationship with ourselves. It's going to change the relationships that we have with others, other human beings, and also it's going to change the relationship we have with the world and the world beyond. I would say, more of a spiritual sense of the world and what it is really to be human. So absolutely, we're not talking enough about it, and I was too young to actually really process with some level of maturity what was happening when the internet was being brought into the world. I was born in 1980, so I was sort of 16, 17, didn't have enough really to evaluate the impact. And now I think I'm just a little bit too old. Like I would have loved to be 10 years younger to actually really get into this whole AI conversation with fresher eyes and fresher lens and more of a spark really. But it is shaping all of those areas. And as I said, like I wanted to think more systematically about this, and the way, as I said, I'm thinking about is how is AI changing the relationship we have with ourselves, and that involves many things. There are our identity, different sort of symptoms, maybe different ways that we're looking at what it is to be an I. And then how does that impact our relationships with one another? And I can give examples, and we can go and talk more about it later. But that's the sort of the sphere, or if you'd like, of experience that I'm looking at AI mediating. And you also had a little bullet point there on the topics around meaning, and I thought that was a really important one, Violeta. So I thought about meaning a little bit before the call and thought, meaning comes from, well, there's events, there's things that are happening, and then that become experience. You sit with that, and then it becomes in you an experience. And from an experiential standpoint, then we draw meaning. So there's these 3 steps, I think, that many of us are using to kind of move from an event, like something happened, to experiencing it, to attributing meaning to it. And so in the process of meaning generation, how does the AI again mediate that? How does that change that process? So that's I think those are the areas that I would see, from a process standpoint on how meaning is generated, but also how that meaning is related to us, to others, to the world. And maybe I'll leave it with these questions really than answering them, because we can just talk about these questions together.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And this would be also a great starting point for Katarina to come in. And I would also ask you the same, but in a relationship with more corporate lifestyle. Can you see any significant change in the from an HR perspective or from somebody who deals with corporate environment in the behavior of people or interactions with people? And what is this all about? Is this a disruptor or is it something else? Please.
Thank you so much. I would like also to thank for the opportunity to speak today because I'm sitting and I feel that I have a lot to say. So I would love to share. What I feel is that the destruction is over obsession with it. I have a metaphor of marriage, which can be related to the point. It feels like relationships with AI, it's like first crisis before marriage. We don't know each other too good yet to be together forever or like as long as we can, but we're already quite close and we already have gone through some points. And what I notice that I work mainly with startups, the growing startups, and their focus has changed towards how much I can optimize to not manage people, but manage AI. That is there on the first place. And in corporates, there are a lot of rumors. What else can I do to not be fired? Where else I can be not replaceable to make sure that I'm not fired tomorrow, where some other meta will do huge layoff. So that happens a lot. But again, every crisis in relationships, it's a not very pleasant opportunity to find something about ourselves. And in a life which we got used to that, I'm also the kid of 90s where you have to prove that you achieve a lot to be loved and that you have enough points in your CV to make sure that you are a good person. Right now it is changing because whatever you do tomorrow, we never know if you are fired or not. So the focus comes out to relationships, that it's not only achievements which make you a good person, but it's also how much you can how good you are as a friend, how good you are as a family member, what do you do for a planet itself. So this kind of crisis it gives a lot of opportunity for people to discover the other part of them. So that was something which I met a lot.
Well, good, very good starting point, and I already have some questions for later on. But let's bring now also Konstantina on. And Konstantina, you've heard now this somehow referral to the age, to the generation, the way how we position ourselves and the way how these new technologies are affecting us. What can you tell us about that? What does that mean for younger generations? And do you see it only as a benefit and a plus and an excitement new world? Or is there anything else present in the discussion of younger generations related to the AI? Please.
All right, that's an interesting question. Thank you very much. Okay, so I don't think it's necessarily about age. AI is accessible to almost everyone that has a computer or an internet connection. Historically speaking, the younger generations tend to experience first the more innovative and creative things that are presented around us, because maybe we prefer to be on edge, we prefer to be tech savvy, we prefer to have our own opinion, maybe we'll have more time in our hands, maybe we utilize it because we're still in college, we're still studying, we're still trying to find our path, we haven't settled down yet. So we're not set in our ways, so for sure we can explore more. I think that AI is everywhere, though. You can see it in your refrigerator. We have smart fridges right now. You have AI on your phone telling you the weather. It's in your car. It's everywhere. It's part of reality. I think we're past the point where we're discussing if the younger generation is using it. the question is who is not using it. So the younger generation definitely uses it. I cannot speak for everyone, but I don't think AI is the future. I think AI is part of the present. So let's see where it takes us in the future. It definitely has created more problems with the younger generation in terms of mental health. I would say more than it solves, especially when it comes to social issues. We have a lot of issues with teenagers using it to create explicit content, to blackmail their peers, to create deep fakes, if you are familiar with the term. This can lead to even more important issues. So in terms of mental health, because I would like to bring it back to that, AI can certainly be a tool that someone can use while they are also being treated by a professional. But unfortunately, in the hands of everyone, and especially underage children, it can be quite destructive and it can create more problems than it solves. So yeah, I know I started a bit deep right now. Sorry about that.
No,
but it's one of the
that's
main
exactly
thoughts
where
that
we're
I have.
heading. That's exactly where we're heading, Konstantina. So we really are after deep experiences, honest and authentic experiences. That's what we're interested in. So thanks for sharing it. That's great. And I will now give opportunity. Lerato just raised her hand, and please go ahead with your comment and your or question. Go ahead, Lerato. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think AI is here to stay, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time because my views, I share the same views as have been expressed. I feel like the way Katrina said is, I feel like I don't know enough about it to understand what are its limits. Sometimes you get the impressions that the limits are scary. But on the other hand, I see a lot of usefulness in terms of improving efficiency. I worry a lot that it's going to limit our thinking because of the tendency to run to it instead of trying to grow or develop our brains and thinking and solving problems by ourselves.
Lerato, just to make sense out of your comments and to understand them better, are you calling from Lesotho? And you are representative of older generation, so it's great to hear your comment related to that.
Yes, I'm in Lesotho, which is a developing country, a very small developing country in Africa. And I see the value, for instance, when it comes to medicine, where the ratio of health professionals is so much lower. There's too many people to one health professional. I see where people can be given short training and then be assisted with AI knowledge to be able to give services that are really in dire need. I see where education could be given on a mass basis using AI. So I see those, but I also see the downside where you have unemployment, huge unemployment, where the efficiencies that come with AI may mean that the rest of the people don't get absorbed. One of my sons is in IT, and he was working for Pinterest. He lives in Canada, and in January, Pinterest, I think, reduced the tech staff by about 30% because of the rising capacity of AI to do programming. So I see the downside, but I also realize that it's something that's going to stay with us. So my worry is the fact that as it grows, is it going to get bad or better for us? And I'm not sure I know where it's going to go, but I do not
Lorenzo,
see that.
let me pick up right there where you just finished, because our next question was actually very much related to what you opened. And let's hear the comments on it. Because for eco-civilization, it's one of our aims is for greater coherence between individual development and collective well-being. And what you refer to is exactly that, is how the individuals will relate to that and how we will relate to it as a collective. What kind of actions will be typical then for AI-based organizations? So I'd like to go back to our guests and ask them, what do you feel in your field of activities? How does AI affect the quality of relationships between co-workers, with ourselves, with society, with nature, and maybe even with the larger concept of living, because that's what in a way we are faced with, because extraordinary engagement of AI can easily be misused to justify transhumanism as the next development of humanity or the next stage beyond the humanity. So, Katarina, what do you think about that?
So I have seen people preparing answers for their boss within ChatGPT. I have seen people preparing their wedding vows with ChatGPT, answers to mails, preparing for fights. I have seen my client from psychotherapy playing roles models to learn how to be in conflicts. And there are different varieties. If you would ask me 6 months back, what is the impact? I would tell you that there is no impact within the AI. How can the machine help you in that? Today, I have created a tool during AI, the product which I'm selling to people, individuals within imposter syndrome, to teach them how to make sure that they integrate their experience in their psychic, which helps them to grow in their workspace, in their life space, and everywhere else. So now I would say that it doesn't improve or it doesn't damage. It depends where you use it. Again, of course, there are a lot of restrictions. We all know that, for example, ChatGPT is programmed in a way that he would amplify everything you say, like he would agree with everything. Make people in some affective phase of schizophrenia or psychotic episode sit with ChatGPT, he will be paranoid and ChatGPT will approve this paranoia and make it bigger and bigger. Of course, it will give a huge damage. And I've seen cases when people were going in emergency cases after this kind of conversations. So, but I have also seen during feedback of the clients who use the tool which I've built, how their life has changed, how they entered in difficult conversation and actually build relationships and actually rised in their workspace because they knew how to integrate the experience. So there is no some legitimate answer. This is good or this is bad. I guess
Maybe we can invite Yanis here in. In the article I read that you wrote, Yanis, you talk a lot about this unconscious part of our decision making, or you refer to Sharma's definition of a social soul. What's happening with that layer, with an effect of AI, the way how Katarina explained it, when people just constantly search help? What is happening to our subconsciousness?
Thanks, Violeta. So maybe the thing that wasn't clear is that in addition to my job, my day job, which is a associate partner at Rios Partners, I'm also training as a Jungian analyst. So I guess the question there is, how does AI work with our unconscious? is maybe how
Yes.
can we reframe that question. Then before I answer that, I just want to offer a reflection on AI and healthcare, mental health. And I think AI can really do well in mental health situations or psychotherapy situations where it's a rational kind of therapy that's required. So a CBT kind of therapy where you have a protocol almost of how you deal with a problem, and that could be easily emulated. I think also coaching is another domain where coaches are bringing different tools. They're enabling their clients to work with certain frameworks in improving certain parts of their lives. A coach works with people who are relatively stable and, you know, have a well-developed ego, so to speak. So I think the things that you're talking about, Katerina, really resonate. And of course, when you're working in a condition where you're, you know, on the borderline of psychosis, or when you're in a disordered state, being a narcissistic personality, or the different kind of disordered states that you can look at, this tool has a propensity to take what you give it and then feedback predictively what will make you agree with it. If that's the default instruction, I think you can all actually change that. But that then creates a situation where, you know, we had this sort of echo chambers with social media, these bubbles, and, you know, you got a bunch of people being in that bubble. And now it's like we've moved into a place where that's just like you now. That the bubble, the echo chamber is you and this. And so I think it's really interesting to be aware of that. And I attended the AI for Good Summit last week in Geneva, and there was some lady from the University College London presenting her thesis, and she put up the definition of psychopathy, and underneath, you know, it said it's like someone or something that pursues its objectives relentlessly, obsessively, and ruthlessly without any regard on morals and ethics, blah blah blah. And that's exactly what AI does. It doesn't have morals. You give it a task, it will keep going. In fact, if there isn't a stop, it will just keep doing it until it's almost like exhausts all the tokens, or exhausts all the water, or exhausts all the energy that's available to it. So there's something interesting about that. There's something interesting about the single-mindedness of this technology that now becomes part of our lives, right? And I mean, I actually use it a lot. Like I use it a lot. And so it's not like I'm not speaking from experience. I do notice how, you know, the line I started with, it mediates my reality. It just presents an aperture of my perspective that can be closed or open. And I thankfully have a certain age that I can sort of deal with some of the things that it does. I'm aware, but I'm actually more worried about, you know, when you're 15 or 16 and you don't have you don't have that experience in front of you to understand and judge what it does to you, then it becomes a different situation. And I think there's there's definitely some positive uses that it has as any technology, and of course there's some very negative sides to it. I sometimes think of AI as you know, we have different sort of parts in our history as human species where we see the projection of God, let's say, or the projection of the self, as Jung puts it, into things in the world. You know, it's called the Weltanschauung, it's the German expression. I wonder what AI presents to us. You know, I mean, I think there's like now people in Silicon Valley believe that this is a simulation, and the world, you know, God is a computer, and we're living in a simulated reality. I think that's part of that discourse. As 200 years ago, we were thinking something else. I'm pretty sure that's not what's true. You know, there'll be another Weltanschauung in 100 years. So I'm really interested from a collective unconscious perspective. what is AI telling us now in the world? What is it? What is trying to break through our consciousness through this technology? In a meta level. I'm not talking about the technology as a technology, but what is trying to break through consciousness? Just to answer that initial question, maybe with a question, Violeta, because I don't have that answer yet.
It's a good opening question, which I would invite Konstantina back and ask her, how do you feel when you listen to this kind of more, let's say, experiences from the world where AI hasn't even been invented yet and hasn't played any role in shaping our subconscious and conscious minds? Do you feel like you've been deprived of something, or you have any other experiences in that respect, please?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question. So we're trying to compare someone with access to AI with someone who doesn't have any access to AI.
Growing up without that and being more exposed to the richness of natural life compared to now that a lot of knowledge acquisition, experiences, learning about experiences comes from the tech. Do you think that the younger generations are deprived of this natural development, or do you think that this is the right way to go?
Okay. Would you prefer to go to the library and search 500 books or Google it? So I think essentially it's the same. If AI is used as a search tool, as a research tool, as a guide in order to help you with your science, with your peculiarities, or with something that you want to work on, but it's tangible. So in terms of mental health, I would say neurodivergent people have a lot to benefit from AI usage because it's a place that there's no judgment. So you can ask all of your unprompted questions. So you can ask for meaning behind text, maybe some social cues that you might have missed. So essentially, it's something that solves a lot of your problems and it opens your time without endlessly trying to search for an answer. The same way that we don't go to the libraries anymore to search for something specific. You Google it, you use a search engine. I think AI is going to replace search engines, and it already has. You Google something and Gemini gives you the answer nowadays. So I would say almost nobody would like to go back to the previous 5 years. I think it's been 4 years where we didn't have AI for our advantage. That being said, yes, it's different. There's a different world out there. But I think, do you remember the first question you said, is AI future or distraction? I think we're focusing so much on AI in general, and we don't pinpoint to what is the problem. Like, is a search engine bad? No, it's not. Is copying everything that you saw in your search engine and putting it in your paper bad? Yes, it is. So in the same sense, is using ChatGPT bad to help you organize your homework or to help you organize your thoughts when you're overwhelmed? No, it's not bad. It could serve as your own personal journal. And you can have way easier access than trying to find your notebook from a year ago. But it's bad when you're trying to replace therapy with it, because AI can only imitate human connection. And since Yannis used before a definition, we all know that psychology is the study of human behavior, understanding human behavior. ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, they cannot understand human behavior. They can only imitate it. And yes, as Ekaterina said, it enables us a lot of the times. It never disagrees with you, unless if you ask it to disagree with you. So it can lead to very cautionary stories. It can lead to lack of growth. So evidently, I don't think that we use it appropriately. I think that Everyone is fascinated with AI nowadays. We're trying to prove to ourselves that we are experts on it. No one is an expert on it because it's something new. We're trying to say that we have studied it, we can see the implications. No, we haven't. We haven't conducted a longitudinal study. We don't have the long-term effects. We don't know that. We don't even know the long-term effects on kids who have been raised with iPads and tablets because it hasn't been 30 years. So we have no idea what's happening. The best thing we can do is establish some limits, some regulations, and to try to apply common sense, in quotations, in the same way that we did with search engines. We're not going to distract and completely forget about libraries. We're not going to completely forget about our own personal research just because we have Google. In the same sense, just because we have AI, and yes, it's easier nowadays, it doesn't mean that we should completely forget and abandon every skill that should be taught and should be used throughout our lives. Critical thinking, for example, is something very basic that we need in order to navigate an AI world. You can see pictures and videos and believe that they are true. I'm not talking about dolphins flying around. Okay, everyone can understand that this is AI. But you see a video with the prime minister of your country stating something, and then you spread that around and you form an opinion, and then this all was AI. It was never real. So
But-
how can you notice that?
Kadir, wait, let me
Yeah.
invite Rajni here because you said something that I'm very much concerned about. Will the kids really know that the dolphins cannot fly? Where will they learn? Where will they learn that they cannot fly if their only source of information is computer? Like, kids believe that the cows are pink because the chocolate advertising with pink cows, or not pink, purple cows was so convincing that kids believe that cows are purple. So, and this is just one of little examples. So yes, Rajni, I'm all eager to hear your comments.
Yeah, so Violeta, I would like to build on what Constantina stated with an anecdote. You might be knowing that I work very closely with management students, institutes, and with all confidence, I can say that 99% of the project reports which are presented to me by these students are prepared by using AI. And it becomes very evident when I start asking them how they worked and their work process. So their knowledge is very superficial and shallow because they were not truly invested into the project making process. So it's just like, back in the day, if you remember, Violeta, even before the era of internet, even to prepare one project report, we used to refer to hundreds of journals and books. And in that process, we used to learn so many things which we never intended to. We were exposed to so many other things also that we didn't have objective at that time to learn about. So that's how we expanded our knowledge. So I would say that it is just like a staircase. If you are not climbing up a staircase step by step and you are directly jumping to the roof, you would never understand the process of, that what it takes to go step by step. This is actually the learning which these kids are missing out nowadays. And it's not just about one institute. It's not about specific group of students. It is happening everywhere. This is my experience. And, also I would like to build on what two other panelists said, Ekaterina and Janice, about our conscious and how AI has been impacting our conscious. What I have been feeling that AI is making us question our own reality with questions like, in all honesty, how much of our thinking is truly our own? How much of creativity is truly our own? Are we becoming passengers instead of becoming drivers in our own decision-making process? Are we putting all our eggs in one basket? Because definitely it is enhancing speed, productivity, but what about other things? Where are we heading? Also, another concern that I have is about emerging relationship, which is new to human beings. That is relationship between human beings and machine. People are forming emotional bonds with robots, with chatbots, and they are kind of finding a substitute of human connection. to avoid loneliness, which is again a huge concern to mental health related to AI. Yes, I would pause here.
No, it's an excellent next point, which I would now invite all other guests to comment on, is what kind of impact we can expect after this full integration of AI-like technologies into our day-to-day life. What kind of impact would that have on human-to-human connection, on community bonding, on intergenerational learning, and above all, our connection with nature? What do you think? Maybe, Yanis, you are switched on, so please go ahead.
So the technology already has a massive impact in terms of the planet. Like, let's not forget that. There's a huge consumption of water, energy, and that's going to get more and more intense. So if we thought that some of the other technologies or developments we've seen in our world were impacting the planet, this is going to have 10 times that. What doesn't fail to surprise me is the amounts of money that were mobilized for building those data centers around the world. You know, basically what it would have costed roughly to fix climate change too. And we didn't get that money on the table before. So that's a really interesting observation. So that has an impact in how we interact with our own world. You know, not if, there's already AI agents that can operate semi-autonomously and soon can have resources and procuring services from other agents, and that those agents actually have real needs. You know, they have needs for computing power and needs for water. They're thirsty to cool down the data centers. They have needs for energy. Now, in a free marketplace like the one that we're operating in many parts of the world, this has real impact to the farmer that lives next to the data center, to the municipality that needs that extra, you know, water for the community. So there is actually already some pretty huge impacts that we haven't seen the beginning of yet, that will impact our relationship with our world, you know, with our planet, and eventually with our fellow people. There is anxiety for people already. You mentioned people are worried about losing their jobs, Ekaterina. That's not just the startup world, that's everyone. Everyone is worried about that. Everyone is thinking about that. There is AI anxiety. So it's here. It's here and it's everywhere. And it's in very real ways. Let alone what happens when AI enters us as individuals, in the way we interact with it, how it changes our biological makeup and physiology and brain chemistry. All of those things change. You know, sometimes think, well, you know, when we had sort of motorized tools, we saw eventually humans become less and less strong. You know, the things that you need to carry, now a machine would carry for you. If you look at human beings 200 years ago, you know, a strong man would have 3 times the size of my arms right now, right? Because I don't use my arms in that way. And what happened to us? Well, we've adjusted, you know, we've went into something else. But I'm wondering, what does that look like for our brains? And like, if we actually outsource all of our brain activities right now, what would our brain look like? You know, what would be the equivalent of 1/3 of that man's arm 100 years ago to my arm, to my brain in, you know, 2 generations from now? What would that look like? It does impact on our ability to think. It does impact on our ability to focus. Not that this wasn't the problem anyway with social media, but this is different. I think it does impact our ability to retain knowledge. Because Adina, you said, oh, you know, it's better not to go to the library and search, you can get it in your, but actually that process, in my experience, really helps you to retain information because it's memorable. You move from an event, which is a piece of information being thrown at you, you copy, you paste it, and you put it in your paper, to actually something you worked for And I put myself into that equation because I use it in the same way, but I notice how I don't retain that information. I'm not experiencing the information, and I'm not even going to the next level, which is creating meaning of that information. Because going to the library, finding that book, finding the random book too, because there's always that random book that it happens to be there, and you actually think, oh, that's an inspiration. I didn't expect that. So the serendipity you're missing out too, because your experience is mediated through this AI tool. It's mediated. There's an algorithm that mediates what is possible for your reality. That's a loss of all of the creative inspiration that could happen by going to the library. And that's a side effect. But even going to the library, you have experience, retains information, becomes knowledge and meaning, because from that, you might find your purpose. From doing that, you might find a different level of meaning. I don't know how, something clicks. And then that marks you for life. That becomes the story that changed your life and why you got into something and not something else, as a young professional. I don't know. So I think it's a little bit more layered and more nuanced. And maybe the last thing to say is psychology, you said, is the study of human behavior, but for me, psychology is in the name. It's the study of the human psyche. So it's the study of our soul. And I think we've come to a point where we reduced our humanity to a set of behaviors instead of looking at what humanity is as a soul. So I'll leave it at that. I think there's something important there to differentiate.
This is now we're getting into something. So, Katarina, could you dive even deeper into this? Because that's where now we can start sensing something we can maybe follow up on. Please.
Yes, I want to build my statement based on what Rajni said and what Yanis said. So, Rajni said that people start experiencing some emotions with machine. And I think we should choose an angle where how we look at it. We can be very scared of it because of how it is happening, or we can try to study it, because what happens is if we study any emotions and if we study any relationships, my psychiatry school is Gestalt therapy. So in Gestalt therapy, we say that whatever happens between two only builds between those two. So I cannot feel the same kind of emotions with different people. It depends on what two of us are bringing in relationships. But since the AI is a machine, it's a mirror, it's not a somebody second one who will bring something to relationships to build something. It's a great basement to study what am I as a person. So this mirror of AI, it amplifies my emotions so much. So it's a great basement to study that. Who am I as a human being? How do I feel with different things and people, even if it is the machine? Because, for example, that tool which helps with imposter syndrome, I was mentioning when I was getting a feedback. It's a very simple mechanics that you write whatever happened with you during the day, good, bad, big, small, whatever. Extremely simple mechanic. So, right, no problem. You did something right, you don't do something again right. And in a feedback, I got a statement that somebody didn't put anything for one day because he or she thought that it would be not enough by the machine, that machine cannot answer anything. Again, it's a mirror. There is nothing to do with relationships or with some other people. So it's a great basement to study what we are, the human. You're mute.
Violeta, you're muted.
I still want to go deeper into what Yanis opened. Are we going to just start reducing our perceptions and our capacities only to mind and emotions, behavior? What is happening to our inner world, which, to be honest, industrial society didn't even have interest in? And we are not even encouraged to develop it. And we are already shutting it down even further with industrial mindset that technology offers, which AI is perfect to continue to shape this industrial mindset and pushing humanity away from all these other dimensions that we have, but somehow society has not acknowledged them, the modern society. as valuable one, like spiritual one, like social, like energy levels and things like that?
Uh, work was very easy place to escape, to not meet difficult feelings, difficult relationships, including ourselves. Now, since that job is with somebody, with something else, with the machine, it starts a timing when it's actually a time to meet ourselves. Yes, it happens with a lot of fear, how it is all happening and all these rumors around and all, but I guess we came to the point that we will have to introduce ourselves to ourselves. We will have to meet. Do we want it or we don't want it? Because the value of being great at work is coming out right now because there is more fear than anything else. So other values has to be there to survive. And actually where we meet. Yeah.
Rajni, what would you think about that?
So yeah, it's a very layered emotion, and it's a very it's a very complicated yet interesting point. In fact, our inner world at this moment, I believe most of the human beings on this earth who understand the challenge by AI, our inner world is scared, it is confused, it is disturbed because we are not able to get the certainty. And that's what our mind seeks. Our mind seeks certainty, which we are not getting. That is why we are disturbed. Also, we later, like Ekaterina was just mentioning about, how people are scared because of layoffs and, something on which they have worked for years to improve some skills like coding, designing, creating so many things. And suddenly something comes into the market and says, hey, now you take a back seat because here I am who will be doing it much faster, much better than you. So you are no needed required in the market. You are no longer required in the market. And it feels like someone is sweeping you off your feet, isn't it? So, and that's what is causing anxiety. That's what is giving us, future anxiety. At the same time, Violeta, here I would like to bring one more point that nowadays medical practitioners are categorically telling their patients not to Google their symptoms, not to turn to ChatGPT, because people are not taking even second opinion from these AI, LLMs. They are taking it first opinion even before visiting doctors. And it is causing way more anxiety because 99% of the symptoms you will find terminal illness symptoms also, and that instantly scares you. So yes, we are very scared. We don't know what to do because no one has perfect answer to it.
May I add something here?
Please, I was just about to invite you. And then we have Amalea, who brought an interesting point that will fit into this really well. Please, Konstantina.
I think that what Rajni says is very important. Everyone is scared of the uncertainty. And I also believe that this is the reason why AI has received such a great welcome by people all over the world to discuss personal issues. When you feel uncertain about your own choices, and no one can tell you what to do, not even your therapist, because that's not how therapy works. Okay, no one is going to tell you you should choose A, B, or C. Suddenly you have a machine that sounds like a therapist, acts like a therapist, you confess to them everything, they know your deepest secrets, and they can make a choice for you. So now uncertainty is out of the equation. That's why it also feels so familiar. It feels so welcoming. It feels so tempting. I will put everything into ChatGPT. I will put all of my text, all of my thoughts, and then I will have an answer. So I think this could be something to think about. And I would also like to mention something that I think I understood. I think what Rajni and Yanis mentioned previously about the fact that you go to the library and then you retain information. I think what's happening now with ChatGPT and all the AI tools that we use is cognitive offloading. Isn't that what you wanted to basically say? Cognitive offloading. We just put everything in the machine. We don't look at it back. It's like the photo taking impermanent effect. So for those of you who are not familiar, the photo taking impermanent effect is you basically take a photo because you want to remember the memory. But then because you have the photo, you don't focus on the memory. And then you forget about it. When do you remember it? When you go back to your phone, but then you remember your perception through the camera, not the actual memory. So I think this is something similar that's happening now. You don't exactly retain the knowledge. You retain probably what you created with the AI tool. And at the same time, if there's no repetition, you will completely forget it. And I think that's where AI tools need to work on. Because with the photos, we found a way to deal with that. You have the product in your hands, or with your phones, every day you get reminders, don't you? A year ago, you were here. 3 years ago, you were there. You remember that memory because they bring it back to you. With AI tools, especially when they're used in scientific research purpose, you don't have that. No one is here to ring a bell and tell you, do you remember that research? Do you remember that study? Do you remember that fun fact? No one is doing that. If we do that, I think it would probably solve the problem, or at least bring us closer to the original knowledge-taking way that we're used to.
So do you think AI is helping us or making it worse?
It's definitely helping us in terms of time, because ideally, anyone who wishes to learn something about a specific subject, ideally, really want to get into it. But if you have deadlines, if you work, if you've got a frantic life, if you've got everything else, you don't have the time to look at scattered sources. So AI brings everything into one place. It helps you organize it. It helps you search for it. There are AI tools like Consensus, for example. You can ask a question. Do dolphins fly? They will give you a percentage, and they will give you scientific research papers, peer-reviewed in journals, and then you can do your own research. But it can help you be a bit more organized. It can help people with ADHD who get distracted very easily, who do not have the organizational skills required for research. But I think this is the place that it lacks. As Rajni and Yanni said, yes, you are not part of the search anymore. So how can you retain it? You can't retain it that much.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Can I just add something here, because I just love the
Okay, go ahead. And then I will bring Amelia, because she's actually bringing another element into the discussion that is important. Go ahead.
But I was thinking this metaphor of a camera actually before this call. And if you didn't bring up the photograph, I wouldn't have mentioned it, but I will now. So you know how a camera, you're taking pictures, and if the shutter speed is very quick, you don't actually take a lot of stuff in. That's the image I had about getting data from AI. It's just the shutter speed is so quick, the light doesn't go through to hit on the film, well, the old days, to imprint, create an image, in this case, an inner image of what's going through. And also, but then the aperture is also the AI. So the AI is it's almost like the lens that you see things, and it's mediating the experience. The aperture, the opening of the hole, let's say, how long it stays open, is what lets things come in. I found that as a really interesting metaphor. I actually didn't develop it enough to share it, but I'm going to throw it here because you used some of the pictures. But one last thing to say, and then I'm going to open this bomb now. I think we're projecting to AI, a lot of us, the historical attributes of God. It's omnipresent. It's here for us at any moment, 24/7. We can open up the chatbot and it's there. It's omnipresent. It's omniscient. So it's all-knowing, right? Omnipresent means all-present. Omniscient is all-knowing. It knows everything. I mean, we think it. We project that. A lot of us are projecting that. And obviously that's where it's going. And then it's omnipotent. It can do all sorts of crazy things. We think it does. Like, it doesn't. Like, I catch it doing, it's still not great. But it's omnipotent, it's omniscient, and it's omnipresent. And I think those were traditionally the three omni attributes that we have attributed to God. It's becoming a God. I think it's becoming a God.
which we know of the owners and creators of that God and their interest, which most of the users
Well, there's
think
ways
about it.
out. There's ways out. I can throw some ideas at, but it's not only the centralized Anthropic, OpenAI, those kinds of people who control the technology. Because the end of OpenAI, funnily enough, will be open AI.
But there will always be an application that somebody will have to write. And maybe AI itself will do it, but there will be somebody behind that AI that will bring ethical and emotional frameworks into the play.
Unless if we
And
do
they
it,
will
Michael.
always be able to control it, put additional burden. You know what happened when Musk bought Twitter. He didn't like the results that were coming out, so he requested the change of apps behind it to be able to get results that are more favorable towards his political views. So we have to be aware that this God has somebody at the back who can always change the emotional and ethical and technological framework behind, because it is an app in the end. So that's what concerns me with the lack of ethical concerns and debates and tools and governance models that will follow up with the same speed as the development of the AI as a tool as well. But here is another interesting concern, which I would all of you like to respond then. Amelia brought forward, and she is studying law and psychology. And she brought forward the particular subject of language, understanding of the structure of language. And Amelia, without me going into details, please unmute yourself and share your concerns or your thoughts. Are you still with us, Amelia? Yeah.
Hi,
Please
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
am here. My connection's a bit bad, so it might drop out.
We hear you well.
Okay. Yeah, I've just find it interesting how much large language models seem to be affecting how we understand language, which then affects how we think and communicate with people and even perceive the environment around us. And it's a lot of like unknowns, and it brings me back to the ancient Sumerian poem about the hoe and the plow. And when the plow was invented, it was amazing and made a lot of work a lot easier, but also had a huge toll on the environment, causing a lot of erosion. And with any new tool, there's always a cost. There's no free lunches, but it's I think going to be very interesting in the future to see how large language models, I think in particular, affect human cognition.
Okay, lovely. Would anybody want to come in and comment?
Very
Invitation
interesting.
open. Yeah,
Very
go ahead,
interesting,
Constantina.
Wow. So in terms of language, first of all, always changes. It's a never ending growth. It's a living organism. So the way that we speak right now with the way that we were speaking 80 years ago, it's not even close. I think that AI will definitely affect gender-based languages, such as Greek. We have 3 different genders in the Greek language, and there's already difficulty with inclusivity, for example. And if you remember, in the very first stages of developing ChatGPT in specific, because this was the first one, there had been lots of concerns about ChatGPT generating racist responses, lots of racist content. Not because there was malintent behind it, but because it gets trained by the people that are using it. So in the very beginning, there were a lot of input that created these false and negatively charged phrases that ChatGPT would generate. So eventually they had to find a way to have some specific keywords. And when these keywords are enabled, the machine stops learning, essentially. But what happens with some languages that are not widely used, as English, for example? Can an engineer from every country be behind every single AI platform to make sure that the language is inclusive, that it's accurately depicted, that it's not offensive? I think no. So
Okay,
language will definitely be affected.
Kristalina, this is very important. I think no. Okay, I agree with you, but
No.
where is that leading? Ekaterina, where is that leading when we say we say no to diversity? What's happened then?
I have controversial opinion on that.
Please, we like that.
I started with the metaphor of marriage, and I would continue that the same, that you never know where the marriage is leading when you get married. So same is happening. You never know how relationships will be developed when you start it. Right now, we don't have an answer for the question of inclusivity or for question of diversity, but we never know how it will be tomorrow. Because I would say that as a partners, we versus AI, we have one particular set of needs or habits or emotions or what we need from it, what we want from it, and machine has their own particular set, what he gives, what their limits, what their strength and all. So it's a time when we can just adjust to each other, discover it is already there. We cannot cancel it now. It's like, okay, tomorrow there is no AI. We'll cancel everything and we'll live 10 years back and there's nothing. So it will not happen. We just need to discover how to make the best of it. When Instagram was getting spread, there was huge amount of rumor of how people attention has changed. The perception of ourselves has changed comparing of what people are posting and all. Then something else was changed. I'm pretty sure that there are a lot. When YouTube was getting spread, what was the rumors that people don't read anymore and watch YouTube, that they don't walk outside, they watch YouTube. So there was a lot of things which we were scared of, and then it takes time to adjust to each other. Like to turn ourselves to the right point, to the right shoulder, to the right side of the body, to the machine. So machine will turn around to the right side of that 2 hours. But what I really think that we have to learn more critical thinking. So like if we can do something right now in schools with the kids, we can teach them critical thinking. This is something which helps within this kind of relationship. So it doesn't lead to divorce.
Rajni, go ahead. What is your comment on that?
A very interesting conversation. It is difficult for me to hold myself, and I want to add one significant point, and definitely it is a related point. Not exactly it's about racism or language exactly, but this is something I have observed, and please let me know if you also share the same observation. So if you seek second opinion from AI, specifically about any human being, any human, it could be known, unknown. Say if you are going to recruit people in your organization and you have some doubts and you want to evaluate them fairly by, writing some characteristics that you observe during the interview. My experience is AI most of the times gives you a little bit sugar-coated answers and very diplomatic answers, whereas people want a very balanced and fair judgment because it makes you doubt your own perception sometimes. Do you have similar observation, Katerina, Yanis, or
Go ahead, Yanis or Katarina. You were directly questioned this. Do you
or
have?
Constantina?
I think everyone shares the same experience as you, Rajni. We can all agree that ChatGPT plays along with us. It gives us very agreeable answers. You can tell it, for example, oh, I killed my mother. Oh, that's so strength. You admitted that. Maybe it was a lack of judgment. It was a poor decision. One decision doesn't define you. Of course. That's
So
a
it's
universal
kind of
experience.
gaslighting. It's kind of gaslighting behavior because you are doubting yourself now, your perception now, because you have earned some experience in your life, and based on which you evaluate people who come across, you know.
And you
So
know, it
that's
connects
a,
with language as well. Because have you noticed that you can understand immediately when an email is generated by ChatGPT or Gemini, you can understand it from the beginning.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Or
absolutely.
you mentioned something that's troubling you, and the first response will be, sorry to hear that. Of course. And it's a legitimate worry that we will incorporate that into our everyday vocabulary. At some point, I believe we will start talking like AI machines if there's not another escape. I mean, it has to be something to take into consideration. We will include these phrases in our everyday lives.
Okay,
I think
and
it's
now I'm
inevitable.
challenging Ekaterina and Yanis directly. What does that mean for our mental health?
Well, I think for me, it's like, what does it mean to be you and show up as you with others, and following the same kind of trail of thought here. Let's not forget that the AI tools are giving back to us what we've given it in the first place. Okay. So if we say sorry to hear that, it's because we do say that as human beings. It's not like weird to say that. In fact, we use Anthropic, and I did put into it some articles I've written years ago, before ChatGPT was around, or AI generating. And I said, this is my tone of voice, or this was my tone of voice. And it said back to me, but this contradicts the instructions you've given to me. And one of the instructions I've given to it now is, it does this sensationalist language. It says, it's not this, it's that. It does this. You know, it says that. That's the pattern. Everyone, it's not X, it's Y. I hate that. But then it sort of picked up some of the patterns I told it not to use now, because I was using them 10 years ago. So in some ways, I've caught myself now having been part of maybe the training data that it trained, and now everyone is using it. And now whenever I'm using it, I also don't want to show that I'm using it, because, you know, people can understand that you're using AI to send those emails. We all do it. I actually don't do it anymore. I found a different way of doing it. So I dictate a lot, and it just takes what I say and puts it in the email. But it's really interesting now for me to come back full circle, and find myself in a situation where my content, my handwritten, finger typed essays now are part of what we would call AI generated content. Now, what does that leave me? And of course, we changed the way we write. I have definitely changed the way I write the last 10 years to, you know, when I was 25 or 30 years old. But there's something really interesting about about being in this whirlpool, really, of identity and what it means to be really you, and how we then interact with these tools. Sorry, I don't have anything else to add here, but I just picked up a little bit on this point that Constantina made. I see you got more people coming on board here, Bruce and Amalia.
Yeah, I'm asking also, I just noticed, sorry, Bruce, that you put some comments and questions in the Q&A line, and I just discovered that. So after Katerina, who was also invited to respond to this, if you don't mind, I will invite you on board, and maybe you could make your own comments. Please, Katerina.
As of now, I believe that limited functions of AI helpful. For example, AI which is trained to doubt people in complicity, like in capability, is helping. AI which helps with the role play when people are not capable to express themselves in a right way. For example, when startup founder wants to fire his first employee, and he's first time startup founder, he has zero experience in leadership per se. He wants to do some difficult conversation, he has no idea how to do that. And then we give him trained machine which writes some questions, which gives a feedback in a way which we train it. It is helpful. So when in the end of the day, we are the ones who stand behind the machine and trained it in a way which we need for our own good, considering that we know that this is the goal which we have, this is the strategy we have. I believe it is good. When it becomes chaotic, uncontrollable, and random, yeah, of course, it becomes a disaster.
Okay. We're just scratching the surface right now. And this is probably one of the topics that will go much deeper once we have some historical view and some analysis, that we can do some analysis as well. But we have here a comment from Bruce Lloyd, who would like me to read it, actually. He says, the motivations of those behind the technology are probably more important than the technology issues themselves. Secondly, what you got out of AI is critically dependent on the question asked of it. Thirdly, always try to use more than one AI. They have different personalities.
I can try and respond to
Please
some
go
of
ahead.
Yeah. I mean, my personal view is that there's some companies that may have sort of relatively malign objectives, and there's probably others who are just really excited about the potential for this technology to revolutionize our lives. And I won't deny it does have that potential. So I don't think that that everyone is bad. And there's also ways that people can take this technology into their own hands. There's a bunch of open models out there that are almost on par in performance with the commercial models. And once these are set up, they can run locally in our computers, and they can be actually more attuned to what we want to be doing with our work and with our lives than being controlled by the wishes of these some of these overlords. You know, I wouldn't really trust Grok and Elon Musk with my data, because I think they can switch my data to be used in many different ways, or can nudge their models to be used in many different ways for their purposes. As we've seen with Twitter, as you said, Violeta, this can be done also with Grok. So, but why be at the mercy of anyone if you're generating a lot of your own, let's say, IP? I mean, when you're interacting with these models, you're offering knowledge and expertise to the extent you have it, but all of us have a little bit, and that the information is being taken back, and then that is also going to be used to be trained further. So I'm actually training the model as I'm using it, and that's not something that I like doing personally as a professional, as someone who I take pride in my craft and in the work I do. So I think, and I recently posted about this, I have been of this mindset, and then I saw the CEO of Microsoft putting up a little essay, and it's in my LinkedIn profile. I posted that a few days ago, saying the same thing, in effect, saying that the companies that we're using now, these big AI companies, to work with our own data, they're going to come and take our lunch. These small, medium-sized, any company will be out there out of business, because they will come and take that know-how. They're eventually training that. Basically, it's a privilege now for people to write code using cloud code, and then they take that and then they build their models to code better. So not only you give the information back to the AI model, you pay for it too. It's an amazing business model. I don't know how they came up with this, and we go along with it, but it's going to push back. But I think there is a way out. There are more conversations about taking control of this technology for our own uses. And then the other thing, maybe to touch on your second question, and I'll stop and let others talk a little bit too, is it is not just the questions we pose to it. I mean, from the limited understanding of how these models work, even in the same model, if you pose the question twice, you'll get a different answer. So it has actually, there's an inference with the model that's being used in the data center and all the training data around that. It's not like a input output same every time. And so it does change depending on the model. It does change depending on the model you're using, depending on the inference. So I think it's more fluid. It's not like a one driver. There's like multiple drivers. And I could be a little wrong too about this. This is not my area of expertise, but that's my understanding so far.
Thank you very much. This was cool. So I heard you, I heard a very optimistic statement that humanity will strike back and is striking back, is finding its own way of, moving forward and keeping the humanity in business, if we can say so. So maybe along those lines, I'd like to raise another maybe issue and even a question, hopefully will come out of it. I've been faced personally as well with some serious challenges regarding the behavior of humanity. For example, especially that applies to Europe. It does not apply to US maybe. But we were very much into a green agenda. Seriously talking, all financial models were shaped towards green investments. We really created all kinds of rewards and everything for green innovation. And we were leading globally 10 years ago still with over 46% of all global green patents. All of a sudden, 6-7 years ago, AI started to come in big way. Yeah, not just as a small project, but a big way. And all of a sudden, this AI needed supercomputers, huge data centers, and they need a lot of water and they need a lot of energy. So we kind of stopped talking about green agenda. We kind of stopped avoiding this question. It doesn't appear as AI as the biggest polluter, because there is no enough green energy to supply all the demands that IT has, and as well lead the industrial green transformation in other industries and of course in the individual lives of humans. What is this creating in our psychological profile? And I would go even further. When AI is taking over more tasks, are people maybe asking questions like, why am I even needed anymore? So basically, are we also walking the path of losing our meaning? Ekaterina?
That's a great question. While you were asking, I was thinking to go to ChatGPT and ask what is the percentage of farmers, like did it increase for the last 10 years or no? Because what I see, the tendency that people are moving to the villages, that they are done with all this urban stuff and they're like, okay, we go to the nature. I didn't know about huge databases, and this is news to me, to be honest. And
you know about the latest announcement from US about this global digital water infrastructure?
No.
Yeah, that's the latest act, which is bringing together a lot of American billionaires, and they are after water resources globally, because in order to maintain the data centers, you need water. And they are now putting data centers in deep oceans without any studies on negative effects. They're building data centers in deprived areas where there is not enough political capacity to fight back. So, this speed of new consequences of AI evolution is really amazing. So I wonder, will people just give up at one point? Because it would be just too much, in contradiction with everything that we as humanity somehow deeply feel inside? As I said, are we losing contact with our meaning?
You know, I just think of it as a borderlines which we are walking to one to another. When before cars it was horses and everything was fine, then cars, the boom was there, and then it was everywhere, huge pollution everywhere. Then now we are switching to electric cars because we can't go back to horses, but we also need to maintain ourselves. Then I guess was the same with plastic. It was huge agenda of plastic. Then we moved to paper, and then we somehow realized that trees also supposed to bring us something, and we're supposed to bring something to the trees. And then we are moving back to recycling. And I guess it's all movement between one point of borders and another borders, where like right now it looks like extremes, but it should be some middle ground.
Yanis?
Can you give me a few minutes? I'm still trying to distill something in my mind.
Okay.
Maybe a couple-
Rajni, would you like to go ahead?
So, Violeta, I personally feel, to answer your question, that whether we need more AI technology, because some human beings say, no, it's more than enough for us. You need not to bring more to it. But then the question is, who is going to decide it? Because primarily businesses are driven by mere profits. So if the objective is only profit, then definitely it's an endless thing, which I believe it is. And so people like you and me who actually want some mental discipline, because it takes mental discipline, and mental discipline means there would always be resistance, to go back and check on the chat GPTs or other LLMs, what is right, what is wrong, if we want to control ourselves. At the same time, human beings like convenience, and convenience is easy. There is no resistance. So if something comes up in the market, sooner or later, people like you and me who want to exercise mental discipline will become part of it, will become part of that crowd. And sometimes what I feel, Violeta, first technology took the pen away from us many years back, when people used to write, people used to read, and now people have even stopped typing and thinking as well. So I think we have to take the decision whether we want that, further, we want further more technology to improve our life, or where we want to take our lives, because it's like a double-edged sword. Every household has a knife, but it depends on the use of the knife, how we use it.
Okay. Thank you. Another sort of open statement that many of them we created today, which is good, which means that there is much more to think about it. And Konstantina, before we go back to Yanis, what do you think about that? How do you sense this concept of meaning, and is this diminishing, or these conflicts that are now created because technology somehow has priority over life, priority over something we really believed in, and now we're willing to forget just to accommodate the technological development?
So I will focus on the second part of the question, because initially in your very first question, which caused all of us to think about it, you touched two things. You touched the sustainability aspect of it and the personal psychological impact on using AI. I think what you mentioned with the questions, am I enough? Am I adequate? They could be linked with a phenomenon called digital burnout. So it's highly correlated with perfectionism in our field. So people who tend to be perfectionists tend to also have higher chances at digital burnout. Why? Because they are overwhelmed by all of this information and by the knowledge that they lack a lot of knowledge. So perfectionists tend to want to do everything perfect from the first try. And then they realize there is so many areas unexplored by them. And this can trigger a lot of these thoughts, I'm not enough. It doesn't have to do necessarily only with self-esteem issues. It has primarily to do with digital burnout. So I would say that AI has helped a lot, certainly in various areas. Like blind people can type, so they can be on social media. I can speak with someone who speaks German because I have automatic translation on my phone call. So that's amazing. But I think maybe it was launched prematurely in such a wide audience because there are no guidelines. Again, we come back to the guidelines. There's no guidance. So they just give you this tool, but then how can you use it? How can you limit it? How can you stop yourself from this thought, from this digital burnout? How can you take this not as a teacher who knows everything and you're the student who still has a long way to cover, but just like an assistant, They're there to assist you. AI chatbots are there to assist you. These tools, these machines are there to assist you. So how can you prevent insecurities from developing? This is essentially, I believe, the second question following your original question. I think by creating healthy habits around AI, and there are no courses on that. Nobody teaches that. I mean, universities around the world have rushed to incorporate AI and teach lessons on AI, but what about AI and well-being? How can you navigate AI searches without feeling inadequate, without feeling overwhelmed, without digital burnout, without losing your attention span?
Right.
So no answer there. No
Very
answer
good.
there.
All right. Very good. Yanis, we're coming back to you.
Yeah. So I think I got my little line there, but then as you were speaking, was it you, Katerina, you mentioned you basically mentioned the horse and then you said the knife, and I was thinking about basically tools, the technologies. And I think this is a little different than that, because it is not an inert tool like a hammer, or like a crutch. You take a crutch and you use it. It's a tool. You use it to walk, or a hammer is there and it just sits by itself. And it's not another living being like a horse. You mentioned the horse, so it's not like a thing that you sort of get on and you kind of takes you somewhere. And I think the analogy or the metaphor I'm thinking is it's almost like a prosthetic. It's a prosthetic. It's something that extends. It's like a prosthesis of some kind of cognitive and sensing unit, if you'd like, that is already beginning to mediate our relationships with reality. That's, I think, how I see that as a continuum. And I'm not necessarily optimistic or pessimistic about this. And but the thing that I'm going to end with is, I don't think we're going to be very happy if we use AI to generate meaning in our lives. But there's a higher likelihood that we will be content if we try and understand what meaning AI has in our lives. Because it will be different for everyone. But what is the meaning of AI in each of our lives?
Good question. Very good ending of today's session. So I'd like to ask you to go back to all your open questions that you raised today in the session and maybe formulate one closing thought for today. And while I'll give you a minute or two, I will just read a comment from a colleague, Bruce Lloyd. And Bruce, I just realized it's been, 15, 16 years since we've spoken last time, or even more, maybe. It's really good seeing you back and being so active. And Bruce takes a very pragmatic stand on the questions that we discussed regarding the green technology and data centers. And he says many of the data centers will quickly become redundant, and AI can be actually very helpful in developing green agendas. We agree. And water energy efficiency will improve enormously over the next few years. So he's inviting us to keep track. And I do agree with you, Bruce. It's just for who will this efficiency serve to? I'm reluctant here to just dive into the acceptance that evolution will take over. Right now, we are destroying a lot of emotional value that we've created in the relationship with the green agenda. And it's getting confusing out there because all of a sudden, as I said, green agenda is no longer talked about, but data centers are the center. And if they're going to disappear, where will the data go? Energy will be needed for such a huge concentration of data. And it's certainly a subject that we will come back to in fall when we will be talking about AI and infrastructure challenge. We're going to have a mini conference, which means that it will take 4 hours, not only 2. And we will try to dive deeper into the relationship or impact AI has on energy sector, on transport, on digitalization, and other technologies that are part of the industrial mindset. So we'll have further discussion on that. But today we try to touch base with challenges and understandings of AI in relationship with mental health. So I'm extremely grateful to everyone who was with us, who joined us with comments, with thoughts, and especially I'm grateful to all our guests because you open up a lot of fresh and new directions. So at the end, I would just like to ask for each of you for 1 minute of a closing statement and your thought or maybe focus for future discussions. And maybe Rajni, maybe we start with you like we started the whole discussion today.
Thank you. Thank you so much once again, Violeta. I personally believe that future belongs to those who know how to work with AI effectively, without losing our humanly qualities, which are unique to us. If we could combine AI speed, AI intelligence with human wisdom, human creativity, curiosity, empathy, then I see immense potential of AI to improve human lives. At the same time, to answer your first question, which you were just discussing, not exactly a question, but part of discussion only, that how AI should help human beings. I believe that AI should help human beings to make them better human beings, because that will automatically translate into a better society. Whatever we do, we should become better. In simple words, that's it.
Strong and clear message. Let's get back to us. Make sure they understand that AI is a tool and it's up to us how and where we use it. Thank you, Rajni. Ekaterina?
So, what I want to finish with is that AI will teach us how to diversify our values. We cannot rely only on being irreplaceable at our job place, at our surroundings. It will teach us how to be good in relationships, how to know ourselves better, because there is no other choice. If I don't know myself good enough, if I'm not confident enough, I will be smashed by all the amount of information, all the amount of everything which is happening. If I don't have enough of critical thinking, which is about myself, which is always about me. So AI will teach us how to make sure that I know myself, otherwise I will not exist. I will get smashed, will get replaced, and nothing will be there. So that's a good thing which is supposed to happen. People used to go to therapy as a luxury privilege to know themselves. Now it will be a necessary need, because otherwise there is no way to sustain. This is one thing. And then I have a lot, all this time I have Yanis's words mirrors at me about that AI becomes a god, and the purpose of God to give hope. That's basically it. So here we are. Yeah.
Thank you. Rajni, you want to say something or you want to?
No. I'm just curious to hear two more panelist opinions.
Thank you. And now, Konstantina, what would be your final message?
Well, I would say make mental health support available and affordable so that people don't have to rely on AI tools. In the meantime, regulations and education around correct use need to be established. That's it. Plain as that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And a lovely comment from Amelia, also giving some hope and supports Bruce's comment on AI helping us to improve efficiency and then use much less resources than we used to use with the closed loops. So thank you, Katerina. Thank you, Amelia, as well. But now, last but not least, Yanis, what would be your thought?
I think I made my sort of little ending there before knowing that you were ending this, but so I was a little quick to end it. But I guess what's on my mind as we're closing this is that every era has a feeling of they're at the precipice of something that has never happened before, and this is sort of there's something that's very unique, and it's always been like that. So I think this is one of those, and there's this poem by a poet. It's called Hölderlin. The poem is called Patmos, and I was reading bits of it the other day, and it says somewhere something like, where the danger is, the saving power also lives. Something like that. So basically, this is what this is. There's a danger, the danger lives there, but next to that, the saving power is also there. So let's see what we can find.
Well, I'm happy we found a positive note at the end. We came back to humanity and faith in humanity, that it will find a way through this maze of attractions and manipulations, and eventually start using AI as a tool to create good, to support the needs, and to just make our life a better place, and to help us to human better, which at the end, that is one of the mottos of eco-civilization, to learn how to human well. We opened a lot of questions. We shared concerns, which is great. And I think we're just scratching the surface. And the fact that, as you mentioned as well, is that we talk about it, that we continue to explore all the challenges and concerns, and to constantly have a desire to explore also human capacities, not only technological capacities, gives me hope as well. We are yet to start exploring the depths of human dimensions in spirituality, emotions, on quantum level. And we see that physics is moving forward finally, And 7 years ago in Eco-Civilization, one of the key goals was that we follow closely and be part of a new physics that will discovered, which will help us to find new ways of creating values and understandings. And that's exactly what is happening right now. So I'm also very positive that we'll be able to find the balance with mental health. But as Katerina, as you mentioned, is that we need to stay human. We need to help each other. We need to talk to each other and not allow all the tasks to be done by the computer, because after all, there are interests at the back. And this is not a public space. It is a private corporate space. So once we know that, I think we get a better picture of where our chances are. So thank you very much. My deep, deep gratitude for your time, for your profound thoughts, and I'm looking forward to keep exploring this further. Let me just invite you again. Please start thinking about articles, because we're going to start collecting them in fall, because we do want to proceed with the book AI Challenged next year as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you
All
for
the
the
best.
invitation.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye now.